Good afternoon. This is Jeff Lyons from Bilterra, and thanks for joining us this afternoon for the Using Mobile and Cloud Technology for Construction Reporting on Toronto Water CIPP projects. This is something that we've been wanting to do for quite some time. Probably since 2015, we've been working with companies who've been delivering the reporting on Toronto Water and Toronto and engineering construction projects. So this is an example of what we're doing for the City of Toronto consultants and the contractors. This session is recorded. If you want to type a question into the chat, there are some of our staff online and they can answer at the end of the session, either answer the questions or prompt me to answer the questions. So feel free to add it to the chat. And with that, we'll get started. So this is the agenda that we posted a few weeks ago. And it's a fairly lengthy agenda, but I think we can get through it okay in the next hour. Bilterra is a complete construction contract administration product. So here in Canada, that's the terminology we use for essentially construction management. And we work primarily with the owners and the consultants that they hire. So this is the core competency of our company. We have over 120 organizations in Canada, over 40 municipal clients and the federal government using Bilterra. And so it's been around for about 10 years. And so this is very mature. And our consultants like to keep us moving, building more product, more features. So you'll see some of that today. The enhanced platform for project management, this is something we added to address partially the US market and some of the competition, but largely we are built from the ground up. So we do provide these kinds of functionalities, but our strong suit is the field inspection, contract administrator, project manager level workflows. In other words, we make it easy for construction people to use a digital product. So everything we do is geospatially aware, and the user doesn't know anything about that. They can use the mobile app, they can use the website with very little training. So collecting data and reporting is what we do. We do support the more accurate GNSS antennas, example Trimble Catalyst, EOS Aero, and many others, as well as locators. So if you're using this for paint line locations or subsurface utility mapping, our mobile app is capable of doing all of that. So again, it's very civil focused, very linear focused. And in fact, we're probably one of the only mobile apps that has the ability to read a civil 3D alignment if it's been posted to the Bilterra project. So again, I spent better part of 25 years in civil engineering. So these are all of the things that I wanted to see in the app itself. Okay, now let's get on with the project itself. This was really that we started in 2015, and it was prompted by RV Anderson and WSP in the start. So Bilterra was really built, I'll call it, in the heat of the fire. We built it specifically to do City of Toronto CIPP work. And so a lot of the feature functionality of the app, of the website, is 100% sort of delivered to companies like WSP and others. I'll show you that in a second. And also including the contractors. So FERPAL has been a valued customer of ours since 2015. And so the synergy, the connection, collaboration between the engineer, the contractor, and the owner is all very digitally connected using Builterra. And you don't have to have, $100 million projects to do this. We can deliver this to even the smallest municipality with the same types of workflows. This is not an ERP system, a contractor tool. It is largely an owner tool, and the consultants and contractors can use it. Just to sort of see the scope of this over the last 10 years, you can see that this is a massive program for the City of Toronto, replacing or rehabbing old water mains and sewer is the number one objective here. Also included, which probably isn't in this budget, is the basement flooding protection program, which we're also involved in. So replacing services to households where the basements gets flooded, and it's a huge problem in Toronto. And as well as the engineering construction services projects like road rehabs, etc. So this is all just part of the City of Toronto capital budget, and Builterra is used by many of the consultants as we talked about. This is these are some of the big ones. Like I said, we got early involved with all of these companies through the last 10 years. And we work with them to deliver the information to the city. So as you can see here, all the arrows point to the city. And the contractor also gets involved. And how that is the approvals process for the consultant and the contractor means that the progress payment approvals, daily reporting on quantities can all be done and reconciled, even that day, that week. And by the end of the month, when FERPAL submits an invoice for approval, the consultant and the owner are already aware of what the invoice is going to be. So this is sort of a good use case of daily reporting, and we'll see what that looks like in a second. So that's kind of how it works, is FERPAL field managers will approve daily reports done by the consultants every single day. So the quantities will be exactly the same. Now, the added bonus is when I visited FERPAL all those years ago, we were seeing that part of the replacement or rehab of the water main was also the rehab or replacement of the services to the homeowner. So part of that was they were doing what we call schematic views, just to speed things up, of the home, the street where the water main or sewer is located, and then any what we call permanent tie downs like manholes, hydrants, etc. were used to, and you'll see some of that in a second. Basically, how do we locate this water service, curb stop, if it's 3 feet of snow here in Canada or even Chicago, you might have that same problem. So all of the data is viewable by the City of Toronto. So the City of Toronto actually does not pay a dime for Builterra. All of these subscription fees are privately funded completely. City of Toronto project managers have view access to everything, and essentially we have removed the bureaucracy of the City of Toronto to buy a product like this. So the engineers are streamlining everything, and the contractors getting advantage. The city is paying nothing. Now, we call it a digital pathway. This was the term that we kind of coined because we didn't know what else to call it. Basically, this is it. This is the digital pathway. I spent 25 years or more, I can't even remember, in design using Civil 3D and doing design work. And then my partner was in the GIS as-built, stormwater modeling, all of that sort of stuff over here. And in between was a whole lot of pen and paper. So this was why we did it. And of course, we've been bolting onto it ever since. So if you do any one of these things, then you can use Builterra. So if most people get into it at the inspection stage, and then they kind of look at their bid standards, they look at progress payments afterwards. And then finally, we can go all the way back to design for quantity takeoff and cost estimating, or as built for connection with your ArcGIS using third-party product like FME, Safe Software. So it's completely in the Azure cloud, digital. Okay, so I don't want to turn this into a product demo, but we do have to kind of walk through sort of some of the aspects so you're not completely lost. When you log in with your email, this can be the city hosting the site. If, you know, for example, of the 40 odd municipalities that have Builterra, they all have an account, a paid account, and they will invite consultants, they will invite contractors to join the account as an external. So based on your email and your role on the project, you'll see a list of projects after you log in. So the security is all there to show you only what you're supposed to see. And so that's kind of, I want to make sure everybody realize that. Of course, mapping is a big part of what we do here. Geospatially, inspections is and photos is kind of so important to us. So everything we do is in the Azure mapping system, and all of it contains lat long or even projections applied to the project to allow for, you know, survey accurate location on data. How do we do that? We'll talk about that in a second. Now I'm kind of moving fairly quick because we're kind of moving through that digital workflow. And I don't want to run out of time because then it'll be, you won't know the end of the story. So just bear with me on speed and maybe write your questions down. If we have them at the end, we can answer them. So part of this is a dashboard up top. Now keep in mind that the dashboarding here is out of box. We do a lot of custom dashboards either through the system or through Power BI. So you might see extra tabs here if you're part of a custom account. Okay, so you can zoom in, you can see the GIS overlay. So if you have project data from CAD or city GIS, you can overlay that into the Builterra mapping system. That specifically is useful for the inspector in the field. They can zoom in to an area and use this these vectors to position themselves. Sort of a to-do list, you know, for tasks and everything that's required. Of course, another list of sort of every report for the entire account. So if you're a high-level supervisor, you might want to check on multiple projects. Of course, approvals is the number one reason why a contractor would want to use us or be able to log in. And higher level project managers, contract administrators who are all looking to approve documents. So Builterra is great at producing the documents. We certainly want a way to approve them through a workflow. It's very easy to get access to these approvals. Of course, when you log into the project or select the project, you see a similar set of dashboarding, but it's only at the project level. So the other ones were more like we'll call the portfolio level. These are at the project level. And once you go into the project, you can see this is almost every available functionality based on my login for this project. So you can see all of the different things you can do. And so this kind of, depending on your email address or your access, this would limit this. So for example, some consultants are only doing inspection work, so they would only see maybe the inspections option or documents option. Now, City Toronto does not have Builterra, but we did build a what we'll call a big catalog for the City of Toronto projects for our consultants. So if you're building out a bid manually or through the cloud system, which we'll talk about in a second, then we have the City of Toronto bid already in the system. Now you can also add other cities, towns, counties. So this is the thing about civil engineering is everybody's got their own sort of take on what a 12-inch cemented treatment bases. So, with their own item codes, and I think you probably know that through working with DOTs. Everybody's got their own different little item, even though it's probably the same thing. So Builterra can accommodate all of these different catalog types based on your work. You can also enhance things. So this is something different. I think as well, we're one of the only ones that can enhance the bid item to include design specific attributes. And this was put in specifically to extract and populate bid tabs from the design, almost like a building information modeling concept. And because, CAD designer and a GIS person built this system, this was sort of the avenue we wanted to go. In other words, item code, description, and units is very little to do cost estimating. We want to be able to do cost estimating based on the depth of the pipe, the class of the pipe, was it built in spring, this kind of thing. So we can handle almost like a GIS type query when it comes to estimating. Building out the spreadsheet, these are what we call templates. So this is sort of all in preparation to build that initial bid tab. Once you have it standardized, you're ready to go. We work with most of our customers on doing this work, by the way. So you can assign this and immediately start building out the system. So here's the City of Toronto bid items. Like I said, we put together the catalog knowing that some people would want to just use these items and build their own bid tab. And it's very useful for example, change orders. They have access to these unique items. Okay, so if, like I said, we're going to look at option one is where the external consultant to the city would build the bid tab for the city based on their design or whatever they're doing. Now, of course, you can do this internal, and internal city staff can use it, but in some cases, they would hire a consultant to do this work. So they might want to build it from the Builterra system. So it's as easy as creating the bid. You type in some parameters and hit create. So that's it. You create an empty shell of a bid tab. This one's very simple. It's just got these section groups here. And by hitting the red pencil, we're off and running. It loads up the bid tab section tables here. Every time you select the selection table, it queries the catalog, and then you drag and drop it in. So it's basically, you can multi-select and drag it in, and then you would type in the quantity. So this is that's the whole thing. It's basically Excel online, and you can start doing that work. Now, there's some benefits to building it online, and we'll talk about that in a second. There's just another example. As you select through, you're typing quantity items here with the unit types. Okay, very good. This is the one that most of the consultants for the City of Toronto use, because I think they're using City of Toronto generated spreadsheets. So this has been sort of the contract that comes out of the City of Toronto. And so it's, their style, their format, it's in Excel. And so the question is, how do we move this data into the cloud system to do our work? And so it's as easy as opening up the spreadsheet and getting ready to cut and paste. So there's an import function here, and this works with any, of course, Excel spreadsheet. And you would export the empty template, and you literally start cutting and pasting section group data into these empty templates, and then you'd use the upload feature, upload template. So you do in this case 5 or 6 cut and pastes, and you're ready to go. So now this just has one awarded price in it. If you have multiple bidders, you can put them all in here. There's a way to do that, and so you'd have maybe 5 or 6 prices that you'd want to add. And that specifically is used for cost estimating. So as the city grows, they build out more contracts, they get more pricing in, and because it's design bid build, we can compare, apples to apples when it comes to items and basically come up with a very good cost estimating process. We would then want to compare here. Once you do the upload, you always compare with the contract data, and you're good to go to the next section table. If you're missing $1, that will drive you crazy. I've done it. So basically, the estimating is another huge part of what Builterra is about, and cost sharing. I thought I'd add that. Cost sharing and schedule are also part of it, but cost sharing is of particular interest where as you split percentage-wise the cost of a single item, you can then do progress payment and approvals for, say, the city, the province. So you can start account numbers. So this is very specific to at the end of the progress payment solution here. Okay, so the estimating, remember we talked about dragging and dropping. The dragging and dropping in real time will go to the database of pricing that you've imported from past projects. So it's not using some kind of national standard or anything. It's using your data from the city. And it is putting together this average price. In this case, it's a 50 percentile. You can tell it to go for 80 or 20, but basically I got it set at 50. And when you click on details, you get every single price, every single item that contributed to that average cost. So it's a very good insight into the estimating system. And by selecting one of these Excel buttons, you will get the spreadsheet with the engineer's estimate. So this is sort of before we go to the field. We're going to do this engineer's estimate. We're going to go out to procurement, probably some e-procurement system that the city has, and they're going to do their thing. And then we get the pricing back and we put it into Builterra. So that is the sort of process before we go to the field. Okay. If you import cost data from procurement people, I mean, all of these projects have 5 or 6 different departments that participate in this stuff. So you probably have a procurement group that will give you the awarded pricing, and maybe they'll even give you everybody else's pricing as well. So you'll see your cost estimate lined up against the other pricing. So that was done through an Excel import. We have mechanisms to do that as well, where it just reads the Excel spreadsheet that you just saw, this one, and it'll import it directly to Builterra. What else you can do is you can add the spec drawings and specifications, which we'll briefly go over, time limiting. The idea here is you can click on the bid estimate, bid comparison button here, and it immediately takes you to the bid comparison. You can download all the bids as one big spreadsheet, or you can drill into each section group and then find out item per item what the cost differences are. So you can see green is good, yellow is somewhere in between, and red is bad. So essentially, Pal wins the job at 7.9 million. And then you want to go to the award stage. And again, this is just through the Builterra system. You're not technically awarding it through a procurement process. This is all just so we can take that pricing to the field. Okay. We'll do a little detour into this piece. This is sort of if you've done everything else and you want to add some interesting features for the city, you can add specifications to specific items or the bid itself. So you could cut up your current spec into very specific categories. Again, this is up to you if you want to go through the work of doing this. It's not, it's just a nice to have. You can also add details to the documents manager. So if you're dragging and dropping this particular item, it will bring the detail with it. It'll bring the written spec with it. And then so it's part of the bid package. So just thought I'd let you guys know that. And of course, you can add the bid documents manually if you don't want, if it's not attached to an item here. So you can start adding them, and this will be part of that bid package. So you could add contracts, whatever you want to do. In the end, you're going to award the bid, and there's a little award button back in the bids tab. Under progress payments, you'll now see a zero inspected bid, essentially. And this is where we get to go to the field. And this is sort of where a lot of our consultants start. So going to the field is you import the bid data, make sure the pricing is right. You award it to the lowest, to the bidder who won. And then it starts this construction contract admin process. And like I said, it looks fairly straightforward so far. I don't know how you're doing it, maybe pen and paper, using maybe something more complicated. There's other larger systems which are good for office people, but not great for field people. So we focused our entire effort on field data collection. And so we have people, 18 to 70, literally, using Builterra app. Stories like when I started using the app, I was just about to retire, but then I decided to keep working for 2 more years. Stuff like that. That's an actual story. Because it's easy to use and it cuts, an hour off a day for anybody using Word or Field Notes. The idea is you pick up the data and then you do something with it, and this is where we come in. You'll notice that Hydrovac are one of our what we'll call pre-construction use cases is subsurface utility engineering. We're big into that. We're also big into geotech. Also big into bridge inspection. So Builterra is used all over the civil world, and to do data collection and reporting. The app, like I said, very simple. When you log in with your email, you'll see your list of projects that are assigned to you, and then literally you can do something. You can go to form, documents, or tasks. That's it. Buttons are pretty big. This is sort of what the forms list looks like. In other words, this is a lot of forms. But so as you can see, we do everything from health and safety to geotech granular density compaction, deficiencies. Basically, these are configured forms that you don't have to program. They're just like a forms app where you would configure them using the Builterra form configurator. And essentially, once they're done, everybody in the field gets it. Even borehole logs can be captured here. It's one of our more interesting use cases. Of course, task management, documents, take photo anytime, anywhere. So this is easy to use. The documents thing is you can access any uploaded document to the document repository. Specifically, you would want to put documents that the field people want to use. So in this case, I don't know if they'd want to use CAD standards, but say a geotech report or maybe issued for construction drawings or something. So something like that. So this is not meant to be, as extensive as a Bluebeam, but if you're only using Bluebeam to review PDFs, you might want to rethink that. Yeah. Now, this is going to take you through sort of the very simplistic, what we'll call single visit. We've got some pictures we want to take with some data we want to collect. So this is kind of very, very bare bones. And it's the test hole. So it's our sort of claim to fame. Test hole and manholes is what we do very well. So when you go to test hole data, you're going to create a new one. You're going to get locations. So this is, if you have an antenna located on your phone, you can get sub-meter, maybe even decimeter. You'll get weather, you get all this stuff. And immediately once you get the location, these are pages that have been configured. You can start typing in the data. So anybody who can text message or send an email with their phone can use this product. It's very simple. Pull down lists, does calculated fields. Notice northing, easting, and ground is left blank. So because we're sort of survey types, we made sure that we had a mechanism to merge accurate survey data, a point file, point, number, northing, easting, elevation, description, with the form data. So we're probably, again, one of those only, strange Civil 3D kind of application. They want accurate point data. So if you've got it, you can merge it with this test hole or manhole, and getting the ground elevation is key here, because what we're doing is measure downs from the utility. So, and if you don't have it in the field, you can put it in afterwards and it'll calculate everything, just like Excel. So, really great tool to merge that data. Of course, you take the pictures, caption the pictures, and review it so once you hit the submit button, I like to submit right here. So literally within a few minutes, somebody can capture the data, submit it, and they go on to the next hole. They're done. The report's done. The summary reports are done. The GIS and CAD is done. They've basically filled in a brand new set of data for that point. Reviewing the data collection in the office. So this is more of a pre-construction feel to it. This has different looking forms. This is for a subsurface utility project. You'll see all of the data when I click on city test pit data. In this particular form, we've grouped it by utility type. Nothing to do with construction management, but it's in the exact same system that all of your construction is being done in. So if you're looking at a map, you'll see all of your construction related tasks and other things with all of the hydrovac if you want. So it's all one big database. The mapping system, you can do thematics, theming, these, in this case, utility type, and of course, access to geolocated photos and data. Okay, so along these tabs at the top change as you configure the different data. So very flexible depending on what you're collecting. Of course, manhole, this is very simplistic, like a northeast, southwest, with the photos themselves for as-builts. Every photo is independently geotagged. So if you're using it for construction, you'll be able to zoom in on a job. Say it's a large design project. Every single photo is independently geotagged. So you can zoom in here. There's 7 photos here. If I click on a single photo, I guess I missed that slide, but if I select a single photo, you get the metadata. You can select the download report and you can see exactly where was this photo, why was it captured? Maybe 5 years ago, somebody was in there doing a culvert inspection. So that's an OSIM report right there. That's a standard for Ontario. So that's the kind of, iCloud functionality that is used here. If we take that mobile inspection piece and expand it, we get into more of an open form, it's called daily diary. It could be called anything, but all this is configurable. The daily diary is a little different. It's not just a single visit. It could be you're going there multiple times to add multiple lines of data for multiple things. So for example, if you have labor, equipment, materials, visitors, comments, contract items, it's all sort of like sub-tabs, sub-tables in the parent daily diary report or the site daily report. So the concept here, and this was well thought out, when we worked with the consultants, was when I select it, you could create one brand new, or you can preload it with Excel. And preloading it means that people in the field can simply go, oh, this is the day I'm adding to. And when you have a large project like CIPP or road resurfacing, you could have one huge bid, which has multiple streets in it. And the idea is you might send out 10 inspectors to 10 different locations, and you could have them all do all of their quantities for that single project all in one daily progress. And so it's a database, so you can essentially, as they're adding progress quantities, it's compiling it in one single progress report. You don't get 7 different progress reports, and it has their initials beside the quantities, so you know exactly who did it, what street it was on, this kind of thing. So it's, again, I don't know if there's other systems that do that, but it was very specific to these city projects that we have multiple people be able to access the same form. Location's not so important for daily progress, but you still get it anyway. The sub inspections is where you can start adding different sets of data. This is just parent form material. We'll just blow through that. These are the subtables in this particular daily. Now, the City of Toronto daily has so many subtables that I didn't want to show it. So this is what we'll call a typical daily site visit or daily progress report. And part of it is labor and equipment. That's kind of the first stop for the day. You can add one at a time, this person or this piece of equipment, no problem. Or you can build out these templated crews here, or you can copy from yesterday's crews. So there's different ways to sort of add a whole bunch of crew members and equipment and simply submit. So it's literally you're like copying. So you're adding these paving crews or water crews. The work performed inspections, this particular one that's how they named it. Sometimes it's called observations or comments. But basically, you can add and essentially in this case, there's only one edit field. Basically, what do you talk, what did you observe? And you type it in and you pick some photos and you caption the photo. So just 1, 2, 3, you can start collecting this data. When you submit, keep in mind that it's like a little text message. It just sends off to the server. There's no sort of at the end of day, you're putting this together, and then this is all throughout the day. So it's as it happens. Okay. You can mark up those photos too, by the way. I didn't show that. So daily quantities is a little different. We talked about the concept of awarding the bid. So daily quantities is a subtable that's been tagged with, hey, go to the bid, go to the awarded bid. And so again, you're going to select this. You're going to get into sort of a section group here. And then here's all the bid items here. So then you'll see how much is in the contract, how much has been built to date. So it's all reading from the database online. We do work offline as well, just in case you had that question. Being up here in Canada, we have lots of offline use cases. So when you select an item, you'll see how much is in the contract built to date, and you just type in the 35 feet that you're observing and take some photos. If you're interested in what happened last time, you can view history and get a list of all the other inspections you did. The bottom line is you will then simply submit this entry, and that's how you feed the progress payment. That is why we can start generating progress reporting is through the system. Very easy to do. The progress reporting in the office now, or a site trailer, if this is a laptop essentially, you'll see all the inspection data with all the dailies here with photos, okay? And like I said, this one is actually this Toronto Water Daily, and it has so many subtables here. It's kind of crazy. So you've got like 20 subtables. So they had a very detailed use case, I guess, that needed all that. Bottom line is you're going to add entries throughout the day, and then you're going to take pictures, caption the pictures. And there's some photos here. Okay, very good. Anything in a map view, which we don't really see here, it's not important, but basically you'll see, you could review all the dailies in a map. If you want to edit the inspection, it sort of just pops up a pop-up window, different tab. And these are, again, all of these, looks like they have 17 different subtables, plus the contract items. So it's kind of a lot. I would probably break these out into separate inspections and do some kind of something else, but that's what they wanted. So the idea is when you add here using the laptop, you can do exactly the same thing. It'll drill into the awarded bid you can pick the items you need, select the quantities or type in the quantities, and then it will produce the progress payment reporting. So, so very connected. This is the output. So every report we do is stylized based on the client's, what they like to see. And in other words, if we're not trying to change the way they like their reports to come out, we custom code this to match their current standard. And then, but the entry systems are always the same. Okay. Yeah. Now, these would be another format. So this is for Toronto Water had their own, but Toronto Engineering Construction Services has their own. So depending on who you're working for or what you're doing, you'll have different report styles. And this can all be under your account. Metadata means that we'll write a custom report. So we do a lot of reporting specifically for clients. And so this one is if you use the name of the street in the daily reporting on your payment item, that's a variable, by the way, the street name, then we can slice the data using street name quantities here. So you'll get a Monday to Sunday report with just quantities, no price data, and it's broken up by street name. So this is kind of what we'll do for various clients. We do all kinds of different custom reports because it's just data sitting in the cloud database. Part of the success of getting the progress payments to come out right and at the end of the month, there's not a big argument about invoices, is this was our very initial approval workflow, and people still mostly use it because it's like 1, 2, 3. You can send it through an approval workflow that has a much more, complex sort of flow to it. In other words, you have to specifically tell it to email certain people, and it's much more complicated. This one is the inspector will review it, fine. The contractor, you can type them in here, or you can use a bidder list here. Basically, they'll get an email with a link. You'll see that in a second. And if you want, the supervisor can do it as well. So you have 1, 2, 3, it's all approved. And some people don't use this. A lot of people do use it to make sure the quantities are correct. So the biggest thing was, FERPAL would receive this email from their consultant. And what does that look like? So this is the email, very simple, by the way. It just says please approve, and it's got an attachment of the report. It could be a PDF depending on the format of the report, but essentially they can open that up, review it at the end of day or at the end of the week. They can negotiate different quantities and different things that happened. Change order directives, all kinds of things can be put through this process, not just daily reports. So if you're doing a change order request, it can go through the same exact workflow. So all of this is tracked, of course, and when you approve inspection, it really just takes you to a single page. You don't have to even be registered as a user if you don't want to be. If you want the signature to come out like your hand signature, then you have to be a user with your signature uploaded. But otherwise, it just puts your name in with a time date stamp, and essentially it's just marked as reviewed. Now, we don't use the word approved, we use the word reviewed. And ultimately that will go to the report. We'll just take a quick look at that one more time. Right here. So in this particular case, inspector, contractor, report checked by. So that review process gets filled in here. Okay. And then it's all very organized as far as approvals go. So this is how the CIPP was done, all the reporting. You'll see kind of where it is in the process for this contractor. And if it was approved or not, right there. Okay. Now, of course, all of that contract quantity data is feeding the progress payment system. Before you do any inspection, it's zero. And after you start inspecting, of course, these little gas gauges start to move, and you'll see that in a second. So first thing we're going to do is create a new payment certificate. So if I click on that green button, plus, I can add the start and end dates. It's really the period, the payment period, and then it accumulates all of that quantity data between those two period points. Okay. That's straightforward. You can put in other things like invoice, what type it is, holdbacks, releases. Takes care of many things that are required for progress management. So the idea is this is the summary here for the period. And as you drill into the subtable, you'll see exactly what the period was with a details tab here. And the concept is that when you click on details, you'll see exactly all the inspections that contributed to the 10 value of 10 for that period. And so it's really simple to find out who did what in case there was a typo or something. And you can go to view and it'll take you right back to the daily inspection that was contributed to that number of 10. So super easy to navigate. And when you're ready, you can click on the Excel button and put it through, you can review it and then put it through a workflow for approval. So this is what maybe the Excel spreadsheet, this is out of the box, by the way, this isn't custom. So we do a lot of custom cover sheets and payment certificate details, etc. This is out of the box. And you'll see basically all of the, in this case, all of the items down here. And anything with a yellow in this particular case is highlighted. That means it's changed for that period. And what's not shown is all of the breakdown of payables for those, remember those cost shares? So we had, city, province or state, county or count numbers. So typically that would sit over here, and I didn't put that in the screen capture, but basically the cost sharing would also be listed here. Change orders are built into the progress payment system. So normally in the field, you would do a change order request or a change order directive as an inspection and put it through an approval process. When those inspections are approved, the contract administrator can then build a formal change order through the PC. So part of that is they create a group here, change order one, and typically they just have one group and one table. In other words, it's like a little mini bid tab under the main contract. This is essentially what's happening here. So you could have different tables if you want, but normally you just have the one. And you can then add it to a workflow for approval. You can change it from contemplated to approved. There's all kinds of things you can do here. You can add drawings or documents to it to support the change order. There's the items here. If you're using out-of-box city standard items, when you click on the table, you get that same editor that was in the bid editor here, where you can, in this case, I just typed in the word removal of, because I knew I needed a removal of something. And it gives me all my matching options here. And I just dragged those in. And now I have these two items in my change order. So in this particular case, it looks like we're adding a negative 20 because it looks like we didn't need 20 or something. So you can do things like that. If you don't want to adjust the number in the main bid, you can just put in a negative here. Okay, so when you are ready, you can produce the change order. This is just a document that gets reviewed and approved. And you can if you dragged in these items, if they have an attached specification, it will include that with that contract, this change order, and it will look for the signatures. So if you're getting sign-offs, if they have their signature uploaded, then you'll get that sort of signature that is part of their profile. So it's a secure profile. So that's the construction management piece. We can certainly talk about headlight or innate after the session if you want, George. I'd like to get your feedback as well. But that is this construction piece. The water and sewer as-built cards are sort of, I don't know, it's a very one-off, but it's very popular amongst the consultants and FERPAL themselves doing this type of work. So essentially, to get paid or to prove that that particular street is complete, you have to produce at every, we call them curb stops or water service valves, for every address, you have to produce a report that says, okay, I've redone the water main and I put in a new service and I've replaced the curb valve, and here's all the information in a map, and go to the next one. So these water card and sewer cards are very typical for this type of work. So in this case, we have a water card entry, and this won't take long. I know we're running out of time here, but the water cards, you would create a new one, or you can see all the ones that have been already done because I did a refresh. Okay. And so when I select, say, 24 windrows, you can select it this either in the list that you just saw, or you can select it on a map. Okay. And so you can see those overlay in here. All right. So again, these are just a simple single visit form, nothing complicated. And you just keep answering the questions. Location, existing, new. So, I mean, and then of course, water main, what type of water main was put in. And the sketch itself, so we are unique because I did CAD programming for, most of my career. We have AutoCAD working on a virtual server that does stuff with data. I don't know how else to say it. In other words, we can create any kind of drawing from data. And so if you're, in this case, we're looking for a schematic view for a water card placement. And so these are the sketch details that AutoCAD needs. So think of it as block attributes, essentially. And we're typing in some information. The schematic type for AutoCAD is very important. That's why it has a star here. Water main across street. So FERPAL and the consultants had, 12 different types of schematics they used for every single water card, depending on the kind of the location of things. And so the guys in the field knew what schematic water main across the street meant. It meant if you're standing at the house and the water main is across the street, that's it, that's the one. And so you can take a picture of the house with that little new valve there, and basically, oh, you can review drawings. I don't know why I went back to that. So you can review specs, good. Oh, I see, yeah. So if you want, you can zoom to the construction drawings and you can edit the PDF. Again, it's not meant to be a blue beam replacement, but if you just want to do something like that, it does it quite nicely. Yeah, so once you submit that water card update or brand new, you'll see all the water cards in the web portal. Of course, you see them all in the map with the GIS data. Okay. If I click on photos, you see that one photo that was taken in the field, but then you see this water card sketch here. So this thing here is been drafted by AutoCAD. I know it sounds a bit extreme, but it essentially builds out an AutoCAD sketch based on the data that you typed in on your phone. And we do all kinds of different types of sketches like this. Like we mentioned the borehole log at the start of the presentation. We can do actual borehole logs that compete with, open ground, literally. So there's all kinds of AutoCAD thing we can do here for that. So put these two together and we get the report. And this is I know it doesn't look great, but that's what the city wants. Even the yellow, that's what they want. Anyway, so you can literally do these water card reports as fast as you can hit the submit button. When we first met our consultants in FERPAL, they have, 6 people in a room doing these, day in and day out, 10 to 15 minutes each with breaks. So we can do them in the field in 5 minutes, automated. And project management, sort of the end of the presentation. Like I said, we had to add these kind of nice to haves. In some cases, like if you're using like an e-builder or something like that, it's all project management all of the time. Doing water card reports, I don't think so. That's too close to the metal. So we added project management. We're going to get into portfolio management this year, but essentially project management is everything else but what I just showed you. In other words, documents, tasks, requests for information, submittals, transmittals, all the things that go as part of a project management system. So drawings being the big one. So these are all user-defined folders here. You can upload things that are required in the field. We're not trying to replace, ProjectWise or Autodesk Construction Cloud document repository. This is supposed to be very specific files used for the project field people. You can view PDFs or DWGs. We have the Autodesk Forge running to do the DWGs. So you can review and mark up PDFs. You can review DWGs using Forge. This is if a lot of times people just need a spreadsheet with a query. They don't want to hire us to build a custom export. So you can go to ad hoc reports and then just put in you can configure this to output a spreadsheet in any format, anything you want. So ad hoc reporting, the task management is huge. You can see this is very interesting. Geotechnical companies are using Builterra to manage the breaks in concrete testing. So like it's not a limb system, but if you're collecting field data and you want to put a task on, say, a concrete sample, say I want to break it in 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, you can put together a task for that, and the task will be assigned to somebody in the lab. So this is the kind of weird thing that Builterra can do for people. The other use of tasks was for municipal consent. Contractors or consultants can submit documents through a task system to be reviewed, and then a task was assigned to the inspector to do a utility review. So lots of different little things there. RFIs, of course, submittals, meetings, transmittals. So it's kind of handling all of these things, which the competition does. And mapping, which we don't have time for today, but that we're going to do a mapping session in a few weeks. It's pretty exciting. Direct connection to Civil 3D, full attribution, full progress visualization. So that'll be kind of our next big milestone here. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. I don't know if Justin's on the call, if anybody has any questions. Hopefully you got something out of this session. If you need any extra information, obviously reach out. We're obviously looking to build out our United States presence. And I think this is a system that's easy to use and easy to implement. Okay. I think with that, it's exactly the end of the session. So we will post a recording for anybody who wants to send this around to their colleagues or whoever else might be interested. Okay, thank you very much and have a great afternoon.